Welcome to episode 47 of Fizzy's Wacky World of Wrestling. And bring out the confetti and pump the non-alcoholic champagne because we here at Fizzy's Wacky World of Wrestling, or me here at Fizzy's Wacky World of Wrestling, are celebrating 6 years of Wacky. Yes, folks, this is the 6th anniversary of Fizzy's Wacky World of Wrestling. The original podcast debuted on August 5th, 2013. I meant to actually do the podcast on that day, but instead I picked today. It was either August 5th or August 7th. I can't really remember which. I'll have to look at the video upload date again. Anywho, to celebrate this momentous occasion of somehow making it to 6 years of Fizzy's Wacky World of Wrestling and nearly 50 episodes of Wacky, because we're now on episode 47, we are just several episodes away from episode 50. What a momentous occasion that will be when we get to that point. So I'm here to, of course, celebrate this momentous occasion of happiness and joy by talking about a tournament that will likely consume your immortal soul. Yes, folks, bring out those contracts and sign away on those Faustian bargains. The Mae Young Classic has returned into our lives. Oh, what wonderful, glorious fun this second edition of this tournament is going to be. So, quick refresher course, folks. I have been somewhat neutral and somewhat positive about the Mae Young Classic in the past. I generally thought that the concept of an all-female tournament for a dilithium crystal to likely stab Kevin Dunn through the spine with was a very decent idea. Unfortunately, you give this decent idea to the people down in NXT, who will have a inconsistent track record when it comes to tournaments. The United Kingdom tournament worked because it was in Britain. The Cruiserweight Classic tournament was inconsistent. The Mae Young Classic, well, you were stuck with Jim Ross and Lita on commentary and, well, a lot of decent wrestlers, actually. So here's the first thing I'm going to say about the original Mae Young Classic. I think that tournament was really solid. I really liked a lot of the inexperienced green wrestlers competing in that tournament. My issue was with the veterans, or the lack of a care that they seem to be giving until the Elite Eight or the semifinals. Also, Mercedes Martinez for somehow managing to outdo Adam Cole, baby, and Dean Ambrose in being one of the most boring wrestlers I've ever seen. And I'm gonna have to talk about Mercedes again, aren't I? Anyway, the Mae Young Classic 2 lineup, because the original concerns were complained about, there's too many PC people, there's too many jobbers in this tournament, bring more indie wrestlers, they said. Well, thy high father of the mighty land of Isengard, Triple H, saw the peasants' pleas and said to himself, let there be Joshi death. Yes, folks, this edition of the Mae Young Classic is considerably more tougher. The original version of the Mae Young Classic is basically normal difficulty mode with a final boss at the end that was a Joshi wrestler, who was continuously referred to as an underdog by Jim Ross despite the increasingly large pile of bodies that she had dismembered in the background. This edition of the Mae Young Classic is Ultra Nightmare Difficulty Mode on Doom. And I'm not kidding here. It was already a very, very stacked field of psycho killers. And I'm not referring to our glorious babyface champion Tommaso Ciampa in this particular instance. No, I'm referring to the fact that they had brought in a lot of outside independent talent that had a lot of interest from WWE. The young wrestlers that they brought into this particular tournament from the outside have some pretty decent promise to them. However, like everything involving WWE, is this going to be a great tournament, or is this going to fall into the doldrums of mediocrity? An overhyped tournament with veterans that can't deliver and young stalwarts of the future that somehow managed to choke at the worst possible time. We will see as 32 competitors vie for the Dilithium Crystal Trophy. That's what I'm calling the dang thing. It's a giant crystal thing that you could probably use to stab people with. Honestly, that probably is going to be once again borrowed by Candice LeRae when Johnny Gargano inevitably screws up again. Like he did last week on NXT TV when he inevitably got kicked in the face by Aleister Black. Yes, I have saved that gif, folks. And yes, I have repeatedly played it about 500 times. It is still glorious every single time that I play it. Anyway, while Triple H unleashed a doom portal from hell to unleash all this international talent onto this tournament, let's take a look at the 32 competitors competing for the dilithium crystal. Starting with Ariel Monroe. Ariel Monroe is a regular on Shine and Shimmer shows in the undercard. She is known as Big Swole and has several African American competitors competing in this tournament for the first time. Gee, I wonder why. Doesn't have anything to do with that thing from another era coming back, huh, WWE? The whole, please don't label us as racist because we brought back Hulk Hogan. No, siree, look at us. We have several African American competitors in this field, as well as a bevy of international talent, international foreign talent. We're not racist at all. As well as the fact that you decided to sign the the most awkward 11-year arranged marriage with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, who just allowed females to drive. But beyond those political talking points and the uncomfortable realities of a giant, multi-faced corporation that will likely consume all in the name of WWE and the High Father of McMahon, let's talk about Ariel Monroe. Ariel Monroe is known as Big Swole. She's an independent wrestler who likely was brought in to fill in for Faye Jackson. Faye Jackson is a wrestler who was probably hyped to be in the Mae Young Classic until an untimely ankle injury at the last Nova Pro show on July 28th kind of derailed her plans there. I suspect she was either going to be an alternate or Monroe was going to be an alternate in this tournament. Monroe is a solid enough undercard wrestler and will likely make it into the Sweet 16 in this particular tournament. Her ceiling? Sweet 16 unless she matches up against an opponent that will likely destroy her. And there are a lot of destroyers and psychos in this tournament. Speaking of which, Allison Kay. I am not hyped for Allison Kay being in this tournament. Wait, what? Allison Kay was a great wrestler for Shimmer in the 2010s, Fizzy. You're being insane as usual, Fizzy. She had a good run at Impact, Fizzy. Yeah, but here's the problem. Allison Kay was injured at the start of the year because the doctors had discovered several blood clots in her lungs. When you have an injury as severe as that, you have to seriously put into question as to whether or not you should be putting a wrestler like Allison Kay in this tournament in the first place. If this is going to be her last year in the business so she can focus on her health and maybe stop doing MMA matches, because if you have clots in your lungs, that's probably not a good idea to get your head bashed in for real by somebody's boxing gloves. Or MMA gloves, as they call them. Allison Kay is a solid addition into the field if she's 100% healthy. Although they will likely just throw her in the same bracket with Mae Young because continuality of a feud, am I right? Despite the fact that both wrestlers could be better suited in different brackets. Mae Young is one of the other experienced competitors in this tournament, who also has injury concerns, but I'll get to her later. Allison Kay is solid, and she will likely make it into the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8. But I don't think she's going to go further than that. If she makes it into the semifinals, expect disappointment. Ashley Rain, also known as Madison Rain. Madison Rain is a consistent worker. That is basically what you can say about her. She is consistently average. Madison is a solid enough competitor, and I'm glad that they brought in more veteran experience that is at least solid. She is filling the Serena Deeb role along with another wrestler that will be mentioned a little later on in this broadcast. The idea that Madison Rain is in this tournament has irked quite a lot of people because they were expecting somebody like a Britt Baker, a Jordan Grace, a Faye Jackson, or any of the other indie starlets, or maybe another Joshi wrestler. But I think Madison Rain is a pretty solid acquisition. I really think that this will be a pretty solid tournament for her. She will likely be making it into the Sweet 16 after defeating an undercard wrestler and wondering what exactly is going to happen in this tournament. If she goes beyond that, expect massive complaining. Deonia Peruzzo. Here's a wrestler that is likely a lock for the Elite 8, depending on how things go. She was snatched away from Women of Honor because WWE has expansion plans and they need somebody who has a gimmick that is similar to Tina Ferrari. Yes, basically, she's the modern interpretation of Tina Ferrari from the original Glow series. Yes, the original Glow, not the reboot. Peruzio is a solid wrestler. She's very much a technical wrestler in the main of Madison Eagles, who was one of her trainers. She's never really caught my attention for her wrestling. She's always been okay, but her technical wrestling skills are a bit on the dry side. Not really all that interesting, but at the same time, I'm happy that they're bringing in another wrestler from Women of Honor because that project apparently has gone up in flames. Again, because Ring of Honor can't develop a women's division to save their goddamn lives. Much like how they rely on 50-year-olds to fill out their undercard. And not the good kind of 50-year-olds like PCQ and, let me think here. Blue Panther, a few others. Yeah, because apparently the world of wrestling in 2018 is basically being dominated by 50-year-olds. Kind of funny. So Peruzio is going to either be in the Elite Eight or get knocked out in the Sweet 16. It's not a bad start, but she's going to definitely have, I feel, a very Rachel Evers tournament. Also, guess who's back? Yes, Rachel Evers. We'll talk about her a little bit later on. Hiroyu Masumoto, also known as the Lady Destroyer, also known as the lady who wears a Godzilla mask on her head, also known as somebody who is basically having the swan song of her career. At 32 years old, Hiro Masumoto has always been a solid mid-card wrestler in the Joshi federations that she's been in. She's a solid enough wrestler as is, and I think she's going to be able to get a great tournament out of any wrestler that faces against her. But it's likely that she's getting knocked out in the Sweet 16 or in the round of 32. We need that classic first round upset for this tournament to maintain its legitimacy, isn't it? Isn't that right, WWE? Overall, I think she's going to be a solid wrestler, but if she makes it into the Sweet 16, it will be a bit of a surprise. And if she makes it into the Elite 8, well, that means that there are massive concerns on the injury front involving a large number of other wrestlers. If she makes it to the Final Four, well, then it's actually been a very good book tournament because that's kind of a shock that this person is actually this far in. But I suspect she's probably getting eliminated in the round of 16 if she doesn't get upset in the first round by one of the newcomers. Speaking of which, Io Shirai. I am not happy that Io Shirai is in this tournament. Io Shirai recently got signed by WWE. Io Shirai is everybody's odds-on favorite for the winning of this second edition of the Mae Young Classic. Why am I not happy? Well, here's the thing. She's a stardom wrestler who has a neck that is made out of literal dimes. I appreciate the fact that she's living out her dream and is trying to, make do in the WWE, but I've seen this song and dance already several times. First, there was Asuka, who was inconsistently decent. Inconsistently decent to, well, getting dropped out to Carmella. And I know people are going to say, well, that's Creative's fault. Asuka's contract is up at the end of the year, and she's likely possibly not re-signing. Then we had Kairi Sane, aka Kairi Hojo, who won the first edition of the Mae Young Classic, only to be knocked aside for the last 4 months of the year with a concussion, and also fall victim to the overhypingness that is NXT and the Cult of Full Sail, who will likely be sacrificing many non-believers who don't believe in the Mae Young Classic. Great. I hope I'm not on that list. Or if I am, well, I'm bringing my own sacrificial knife. Because, I'm not trusting any of the Full Sail people with the backwoods knives. Anywho, Shirai is an individual who I feel will have a very solid tournament and will likely be either in the finals or in the Final Four. However, I would prefer if they had her lose in this tournament. Why, you might be asking? Well, you don't want her winning the shiny thing. You never want your favorite wrestler to win the shiny thing. Wait, what? In tournaments, there's a curse. Remember what happened to Neville when he won the King of the Ring? Or what happened to the winner of the Cruiserweight Classic? Or what happened to the first Mae Young Classic winner? Yes, tournament curses. I definitely believe in them. Anytime that somebody wins a massively scaled tournament, expect a wrestling federation to completely mess up or think that, oh, well, just because they won a tournament means that they're now over, when instead that there needs to be a little bit more prep time, seasoning, and a few more glorious promos to add into the mix. I think that Io Shirai will have a solid tournament, but I'm not particularly excited about what's going to happen. Especially, well, hang on a second. Okay. What in the literal heck is going on here? I just had a remove harmful software thing just come up on the browser. Okay, I think that that's fine. Okay, I think that's fine. Is it still, let's see here. Remove harmful software. I have no idea what that is, and I cannot remove it at this point. But it's not like it's going to affect anything here. So I'm just going to continue on with the broadcast as always, but I'm unfortunately stuck in this one tab, so I'm not going to be able to look at the comments section if this broadcast even works at all, so I'll have to retape again. Alrighty, so yeah, so Chrome looks like it's had a little bit of a hissy fit today. So anyway, Shirai will likely have a solid tournament, but I'm hopeful that she doesn't win this one. Not just because of the fact that she has a neck that is literally made of a stack of dimes, and she'll probably last only 2 years with the company. But it will be a good 2 years at least. Ilsadon! Hooray! Scotland finally has a solid representative in this tournament that isn't clumsy Piper Niven. Yes, Piper Niven had a disastrous Mae Young Classic tournament the last time around. She only had a good tournament against Tawny Storm, who she's worked with in the past, and Princess Tiny Hat is also back in this tournament. I hate to be overly critical here in this situation, but I'm so happy that World of Sports signed away Katie Lee Ray and Piper Niven, aka Viper. They did okay in the Mae Young Classic, but Piper had a couple of disastrous matches against some of the so-called green wrestlers, and Katie Lee Ray is a stunt woman who somehow has the ability to really annoy me much on the same level as somebody like Dean Ambrose or Sami Zayn does, because she's a stunt woman. You know, I don't really see her as much. I don't really see her as a wrestler, just somebody that crashes into objects like Braun Strowman. So, anyway, well, we have ourselves here. She is Isidon Ilsadon is going to be eliminated in the Sweet 16. She's a solid enough wrestler. She's a solid wrestler who is likely going to provide a vast amount of experience and some solid matches, depending on which opponent that they give her with in this tournament. Not a bad wrestler. Probably would hope that she would be in the Elite Eight, but I'm not exactly 100% hopeful that's going to happen. Jessie Elabon, performance center trainee wrestler, probably getting eliminated in the first round. Kind of feel sad for her because, again, I would like her to advance farther in this tournament. I really would like the Full Sail people to actually start advancing higher in these tournaments instead of the indie people because, again, it showcases that, hey, the Full Sail isn't a ginormous pile of money that is, well, okay. Let's see. Mm, you know. So it's one of those things where it's, yeah, that whole remove harmful software thing from Google Chrome has really thrown me for a loop at this point, but I think it will be okay. Okay, so anyway, Elabon, I think, will have a solid tournament. She'll have a solid showcase match and be eliminated in the first round. Like I said, feel sad, but at the same time, I think it's understandable at this point. Ginny. Well, here's the person who I actually want to win this tournament. Wait, what? Fizzy? It's not Tony Storm or Io Shirai, but Ginny? Yes, and I'll tell you why. Ginny is the current Progress World Women's Champion. Ginny is the one wrestler that can get a really good match out of Tony Storm besides the Joshi wrestlers. Ginny, how about the story of the villainous wrestler winning the Mae Young Classic, much like the same way that Pete Dunne won the United Kingdom tournament? Ginny is a wrestler that I really feel is going to either be in your final four or going to be in the finals. Depending on how they bracket this out, this will be a really, really solid match. And this will really be a solid collection of matches that Ginny has because she can basically wrestle with anybody despite her inexperience. Here's your big concern injury red flag, though. Ginny had an injured hand for most of last year, and she re aggravated the injury at the start of the year. She's recently returned back to it, won the Progress Women's Championship, and is now looking to, well, make everybody fashionable. Ginny is a classic British heel, and she is incredibly, incredibly good at it. How Full Sail reacts to this girl making everybody fashionable, and when I say fashionable, like I say fashionistas, You know how fashionistas are normally portrayed in like WWE as being not scary? Ginny is the exact opposite of this. I fully expect her to rip Fandango and Tyler Breeze a new one when she finds out how much of a joke they've been making the fashion police. Anyway, this is the one person who I consider to be your tournament winner, possibly. But there's so many other people in this field that could possibly fill that role. Even though I'm not particularly thrilled about Io Shirai, like I said, I think that Shirai's wrestling is inconsistent. Also, I really do not like wrestlers that go 100%. I hope I break my collarbone in every match. Shirai is that Joshi wrestler that I don't really like. The whole Miami Toyota, I need to self sacrifice myself thing. That's not something I'm really particularly thrilled about. But anyway, back to Ginny. She's gonna make everybody fashionable, and you're all gonna find out just how terrifying she is. In this field full of monsters, look from the look for the demon fashionista from Nightbridge to make everybody fashionable. Casey Casazario, an American Ninja Warrior competitor, is competing in the Mae Young Classic. Ironically enough, I have a large amount of knowledge about Sasuke, aka Ninja Warrior, because I used to watch it regularly on G4. It's an obstacle style tournament that is basically a platformer from heck. A Nightmare platformer from heck. The kind of platformer that would literally kill you in the first try. Except the American Ninja Warrior version is much softer, safer, and less dangerous. And less fun, in my overall opinion. But Casazario is a solid enough athlete. She's a gymnast, which is one of the two areas that the WWE has been fighting for, alongside with MMA fighters and bodybuilders, to sign to their women's division. She will have a solid showcase tournament and actually be one of the upset winners in this tournament, making it to the Sweet 16 before she is inevitably destroyed by a Joshi wrestler. At least that's probably what the majority of the fan bases are thinking of at this point in time, because if she eliminates one of their indie favorites, there's going to be mass rioting in the streets. Solid competitor. I want to see what she does in this situation. Kaitlyn. The Serena Deeb of the tournament is Kaitlyn, returning after a long absence from wrestling after dealing with a few years of hardships, such as, well, having everything in your life basically turn upside down. Kaitlyn is going to be received mixed by the WWE Universe. Why? Because if she eliminates one of their favorites, she is going to immediately become the Roman Reigns of this tournament. And here's my advice in this situation. Embrace it. Kaitlyn is always a wrestler that I've always considered had a lot of potential and always had solid showcase matches when she used her physical abilities and athleticism to literally wreck people around the ring. Wreck people around the ring. If she throws a pool table at somebody and goes all Stan Hansen on everybody in this tournament, well, then it's a mission for success, but I think she's probably going to go for a softer style. Or she's going to go all out and accidentally pull a reverse Port-a-Prez and break Nicole Matthews' leg with a wrench. Yes, Nicole Matthews is here. So, with the possibility of her pulling a Nancy Kerrigan, Kaitlyn is likely going to be making it either into the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8, which will cause massive amounts of screaming and yelling from people who wanted one of their favorites to make it in. I'm very sorry that you probably won't have one of your faves make it in the tournament, by the way, folks. I've always said in the past that I don't really have much of an issue with the Stan fans, but the problem is that WWE constantly manipulates these people into doing their bidding for them. And Kaitlyn is going to likely store a large amount of the pot and will likely lead to a lot more views for the Mae Young Classic. See how this works in their favor for WWE, kids? Instead of, hey, everybody in this field is cool. Let's see how they do. Because they aren't Marty Bell. Yes, another wrestler who surprisingly was awful and had to have a match typed twice, with Rachel Evers going over in the second go-around. So, Karen Q. So, one of two Chinese competitors is in this tournament. Karen Q is yet another Women of Honor wrestler who has been drafted for this tournament. Okay, are they rating Ring of Honor at this point? I mean, this is a positive rate in this particular instance because Karen Q is actually fairly solid. She's not the best wrestler in the world. She's basically average. Average in the Dean Ambrose way. Not really terribly offensive like Dean Ambrose, but she's a solid enough competitor. She's likely making it either into the Sweet 16 because of the fact that they finally need a Chinese representative to actually make it through to this tournament, and Xia Li either is getting released or she's actually winning her first round matchup. Although they better hope they don't start releasing their Chinese wrestlers, because have you heard what Sema has been doing down at the down in Shanghai? Yeah, he's managed to turn a bunch of Shaolin monks and Chinese acrobatics into really good junior heavyweight professional wrestlers. Yes, the Oriental Wrestling Federation is what it's called, OWF. And it is amazing to look at. Just search a gift for it, and you'll see acrobatics from the movie theaters and whatnot actually doing really well. I think it's based in Hong Kong, or is it Shanghai? I'm not really sure. But regardless, yeah, Karen Q is likely going to be the person who's advancing into the next round, maybe eliminating Mia Yim. Karavita Devi. Okay, so we have another person that will likely win a first round matchup in this situation, or she'll get knocked out of the first round again. She is a solid enough competitor, and since I rate Great Khali very highly, I think she'll do okay in this tournament. Don't really have much to say about her, apart from the fact that she'll get a massive amount of hate because, again, Great Khali and Jinder Mahal, who are wrestlers that most of the fan bases despise. Except for me, because I'm an original Jinder Mahal fan circa 2011, and I've always been a fan of the Great Khali. That time that he was at the Punjabi prison match, that was wonderful. His appearance in the Punjabi prison match was one of the great moments of last year. Anyway, Devi is going to have a solid tournament. Either way, first round loss, or she'll end up in the Sweet 16. Killer Kelly, a WXW wrestler from Portugal. Okay, this is rather interesting. Killer Kelly is a really solid, strong style wrestler who will match up well against Toni Storm when she inevitably gets eliminated in the first round. Look, a lot of people have a lot of upside on Killer Kelly, but she's battling some small, minor injuries going into this tournament, and I don't necessarily think she's going to be lasting past the first round. However, if the luck of the draw goes her way and she ends up facing against the Performance Center person, well, they're probably going to need to sign a new Performance Center person as she gets inspired by, well, the final boss in this tournament. And she's coming up in a little bit here. Killer Kelly will likely have a solid tournament if things don't go awry. Lacey Lane, a Team 3D Wrestling Academy student in this tournament. Why am I not surprised? Lacey Lane is yet another African-American wrestler that has been brought into this tournament. Wow, they're really going deep for this one. 4 of them. 4 or 5, I think? Yeah, this is 4 or 5, maybe 6. I mean, the thing is, in this situation, is Lacey Lane is going to be in an interesting situation. She's likely going to be eliminated from the first round or knocked out of the tournament completely, depending on injuries, tournament issues, and all the other and visa issues come to plague this tournament. I think it will be a really I think she'll have a solid tournament. We'll likely have either a 2 or 3 star match. And will likely be eliminated in the first round. Or she ends up being one of the surprises and makes it to the round of 16, only to be destroyed by someone else. MJ Jenkins, yet another African-American wrestler. Coolness. Okay, nice progress here, WWE. This is what we actually call actual progress, having some nice diversity. And not just for the sake of diversity, but MJ Jenkins is a solid prospect. Another solid prospect added to this tournament. She's a former Impact Wrestling wrestler who competed in 2017, during the time that I didn't watch Impact because it was out of rotation. I have some decent expectations for her. She'll probably do okay in this tournament. I'm not expecting the world. I'm not expecting a world beater out of MJ Jenkins, but she's going to be pretty solid. She will likely either be eliminated in the first round or will end up in the Sweet 16 somehow. The most distant result is that she ends up in the Elite 8 because she has a Bianca Belair moment and actually does really well in the tournament. But I think everybody in this whole tournament is now wondering, why did Fizzy rate this tournament as Ultra Nightmare Difficulty Mode on Doom, level hard? Well, before it was Nightmare Difficulty. Then it became Ultra when they decided to announce this person into the tournament. In fact, this next group of wrestlers is basically the Carnival of Killers, starting with Miko beeping Satomura. Miko Satomura, a WCW original who debuted for the company at the age of 17. They lied about her age and said she was 21. A person who is a WCW original who debuted for the company, and then in the 2000s proceeded to rain down Joshi Death upon all who opposed her. The most solid, complete wrestler in this tournament. She can be a technician, she can be a striker, she will destroy anybody. And if she's in Genichiro Tenaru mode and becomes a grumpy veteran that slaughters everything in her path, then this is going to be a very interesting tournament to watch. This is a person who is a lock for the semifinals. And possibly the finals if they decided to go with the whole final boss analogy. What is so funny about this is when they announced her, everybody was in complete shock. Satomura in this tournament? Yes, this is the tournament that has ratcheted up the Mae Young Classic from normal difficulty mode to I hope you survive mode. Anybody who ends up matched up in Satomura's bracket better be praying to whichever deities that they worship, because Satomura's likely coming in to destroy them. She is known as the final boss. WWE.com actually did a really solid write-up on her when they announced her, and it was completely and totally accurate. Yeah, this is gonna be a really fun tournament, isn't it? And Satomura is likely going to have a very good tournament. Now, are there concerns? Of course there is. Satomura is not a spring chicken anymore. She's 38 years old. And, well, in most cases, I would be extremely concerned about her age. And I know that a lot of people don't want to say, well, a person's age, and I'm probably likely just ended up marked for Joshi death, but at the same time, I have to be a logical, statistic-bound individual. If she starts falling apart in this tournament, well, then it means that the tournament is going to be a bust in the minds of some hardcore fans. If she ends up being a success, and she reverses the aging gods through staring at it and looking at it straight in the eye and causing it to flee in terror, well, then this is going to be a really good tournament. If she makes it to the finals, well, then she's going to be the staple hallmark for the Evolution pay-per-view. Yes, the all-women's pay-per-view that's going to be airing in October 28th, I think, at the Nassau Coliseum, apparently. Either in early October or late October. I'm not really sure which at this point. So, who else is joining her on this crusade of, well, making this tournament relatively interesting? Mercedes Martinez. So when I said interesting, I said probably this is the exact opposite of what I meant. Mercedes Martinez went very deep into this tournament last year because of a combination of things. The other veterans that they had brought on board on this tournament had either suffered from nagging injuries, or in the case of Mae Young, almost decapitation of her leg. This is a person who has Dean Ambrose level snooze fest technical matches. Her best match was with Xia Li in the first round. Every other match that she had was a 15-minute long test of wills and strength as to wondering exactly what the heck is going on. I think she's a solid enough individual in the right circumstances, and hopefully they put her in the first round with Satomura so they can have a classic barn burner of a match. And she inevitably ends up getting eliminated. Martinez is a wrestler who is legendary amongst Shimmer fans, well liked by Shimmer fans, well liked by Shine fans. But for me, from what I've seen of her, I am not sold on Mercedes Martinez. She's an individual who's really solid in the right hands. In the right match, in the right circumstances, she can have a solid 3-star match. In the wrong hands, she can end up turning a match into a total snore fest because she has, well, Adam Cole levels of selling skills, and her ability to convey emotions in a match is not the best. I think she'll have an okay tournament, especially if she gets knocked out of the second round or the first round in this tournament. But I am not expecting a lot from Mercedes Martinez, and I hate being excessively negative to a veteran wrestler who's been around as long as she has. She's had a very solid career, but at the same time, this is the wrong kind of veteranosity that you want in a tournament. the kind who can actively sabotage a younger wrestler because they can't keep up with the Joneses anymore. Speaking of Mia Yim. Okay, another wrestler like Allison Kay that has some serious injury concerns. Remember that knee injury that I talked about? Well, she re-aggravated it this year. Mia Yim is a person whose body is rapidly starting to fall apart due to age and years of experience in the indies. She's been wrestling since about 2009. I'm not really terribly surprised that this happened. She's a solid enough wrestler and she wrestles a very hard-hitting, strong style. She's overall a very, very solid wrestler, but I don't necessarily think that Mia Yim is advancing very far this year. Last year, she ended up getting eliminated in the second round, or was it the Elite Eight, to a very game Shayna Baszler. Overall, she had the best match with Shayna Baszler by a mile that wasn't named Candice LeRae. This year, I think she's either making it back into the Elite Eight or making it to the semifinals. It's going to be an interesting contrast. Will she be eliminated by Allison Kay, or will she be eliminated by the new version of Allison Kay and Ginny? This is possibly likely where her story is going to be ending up, and hopefully this tournament can actually tell some interesting stories. I don't have a lot of confidence in Yim, but she might be able to surprise this time. Charisma has always been a major issue with Mia Yim. She's always an athletic performer. She's somebody who is very much in the Katie Lee Ray school of flashy moves and not a lot else. But she's gotten better on promos, especially when she had her feud with Rosemary down in Impact. Another Impact star, and let's see how she does in this particular tournament. Don't have the highest of expectations, like I said, but she could surprise me. Nicole Matthews. One half of the Canadian Ninjas from Shimmer has decided to invade using a Memphis Canadian style offense, and let's be realistic here, Nicole Matthews kind of needs Porta-Prez. Porta-Prez is not here because of retirement due to a serious neck issue, and she's kind of stepped away from wrestling to pursue a business degree. Honestly, really good and sensible ideas. But Nicole Matthews on her own is still very dangerous, especially when she brings out Mr. Renchi and promptly Tanya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan somebody's knee. If you need to write somebody out of the tournament early, pair them with Nicole Matthews. She's also been giving unfavorable comparisons to Stephanie McMahon. Nicole's actually a better wrestler by a country mile. In fact, Nicole is a very, very solid wrestler and is probably the best veteran in this tournament. Nicole does not have the age or injury concerns that the other ones have. She actually is still a relatively good wrestler. She is making it into either the Elite Eight or is making it into the semifinals. Whether or not she uses dirty tactics or hits people over the knee with a wrench, we'll see. The least thing she could do is possibly knock out one of the co-commentators if they act extremely excessively annoying, or takes over for commentary, depending on where they go with this person. At worst, however, she could probably be eliminated in the first round. It depends entirely on what they do here. There is a realm of possibilities with Nicole Matthews. Priscilla Kelly. The American Paige has finally debuted in this tournament. Priscilla Kelly is a longtime indie wrestler who started out a few years ago. She has a very gothic Paige look to her. In fact, she could basically be considered a Paige clone, except that Priscilla is a much better wrestler. Ooh. I'm probably going to need to hide a little bit because the Paige fans are going to probably eviscerate me to death. Yeah, Kelly, I've seen a few of her matches. Really solid wrestler. She's going to really surprise a lot of people in this tournament and will probably go fairly deep, either to the Sweet 16 or to the Elite 8. She's not making it to prom night for a few reasons due to her inexperience and young age. But I think she's probably a really solid prospect that they should probably either sign or let Impact actually sign her. There's a realm of possibilities with Kelly. We'll see how things go. I have heard that there are some injury concerns with this one, however, and already at 21 years old, that's not as necessarily a good sign. We'll see how things go. Speaking of we'll see how things go, next up is Rachel Evers, aka let me think here. Yes. AKA Rachel Ellering. I actually confused my Rachels for a few times because there's so many Rachels in wrestling. Yes, we'll see what happens with her in this particular tournament. Last time she managed to make it into the Elite 8 via other wrestlers having a lot of into the Sweet 16 due to other wrestlers having a bunch of issues and Marty Bell existing. Evers is a solid wrestler with one of the best work punches that I've ever seen, but we'll have to see where her standing is as far as everything is concerned. Yeah, Paul Ellering and WWE kind of had a bit of a bad falling out recently over the AOP angle. We'll see how this affected Evers in this situation. Either she's officially signing with the company or she's going back to the independent scene. Either way, it's a win-win for her because she can now actually shop around and see who is the most interested in bringing her on full-time. Likely Impact bound, this one. Unless she goes deep in this tournament, in which case she's getting signed by WWE. The odds makers are in favor for Rachel. She'll probably have a solid tournament, but she needs to work on a few different things, like possibly the selling. Her selling was a bit of an issue in the last go around of the tournament, but then again, it was because she was working with people who don't really sell very well, or Mia Yim. I think she was eliminated by Mia Yim last time. I'm not exactly 100% certain. I mean, that tournament just basically just blended together for me because I had to binge watch it to recover it for Wacky World of Wrestling last time. So she'll have a solid tournament, I think. Raina Gonzales. Going back for her second go around is a legacy wrestler, Raina Gonzales. She's either not escaping the first round again, or she's surprising people and actually making it out of the first round. In which case, people will rage about legacy pushes again, and everybody will not move, and everything will not progress forward in any meaningful way. I think she's a solid wrestler, and definitely at this point, they really need to start investing in the Latin American market. Because I don't know who put an Aztec curse on WWE, but their Latin American acquisitions have blown up in their face repeatedly for years. But they've got some pretty solid options at this point in the forms of Andrade Cien Almas, Zelina Vega, Reina Gonzalez, and of course, Zexis, if they've signed her, depending on how things go. Overall, I think she's going to have a solid tournament, but might have the worst match on the card just due to reasons and who they paired her up with. Next up is Rhea Ripley. Okay, guys, you have a bona fide superstar on your hands if you actually let her go deep into the tournament this time. Rhea Ripley is the only Australian wrestler thus far that has caught my attention because she actually has something called charisma. She is not a bland loaf of bread or an irritating banshee who's making me deaf like the icons do on a regular basis. Or because of the fact that they are inconsistent wrestlers who are very robotic in ring. You can always tell how scripted a wrestler is when you see a Peyton Royce match. A lot of potential there, but very scripted. Ripley is going to have the tournament of a lifetime if they actually decide to push her. And I'm not asking WWE to push her in this situation. Either you decide that she's worth the investment that you've brought by bringing her to the PC, or you can send her to Australia where she'll promptly destroy everybody Mad Max style. The choice is yours. She's either making it into the Elite 8 or the semifinals. Hopefully the semifinals, and hopefully after she gets rid of Tony Storm. But knowing how impressed they've been with Tony time, they're likely putting her in the finals, even though that's the far less interesting result. Spoiler warning, by the way, for the next NXT taping, but I'm pretty certain that most people won't really particularly care. Taya Nora Conti. Okay, Taya Conti wins a qualifier over Vanessa Bourne to make it into this tournament. She's likely going either into the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8, and she's going probably pretty deep in this one, despite the fact that a lot of people are not particularly happy that Conti is here. They confused her for Renee Young last time. Yes, they confused her for Renee Young last time in the tournament. She's a solid enough wrestler and has gotten plenty of training at the Performance Center, but you better hope that she has some decent matches and if that investment in the Performance Center is worth it. Otherwise, you're going to be having a very, very interesting tournament and explanation to your business investors as to why you've spent so much money on this Performance Center, only to turn out a lot of blue chippers and people that are solid in one particular skill but not solid in the other. Overall, she's a solid enough competitor, but she's not Rhea Ripley. Like I said, I'm really surprised that I'm actually being really positive about an Australian wrestler. She's not a loaf of bread, like Emma. She's not the Iconics, who make my ears bleed. She unfortunately isn't Madison Eagles, but Madison Eagles isn't here. Otherwise, this tournament would literally be would have to increase its ranking from Ultimate Nightmare mode to even more Ultimate Nightmare mode, with the side of the coffee machine just broke and now Full Sail is doomed. Alright, let's see who we have here and remaining in this field. Tegan Knox, aka Nixon Newell. The girl with the shiniest wizard unfortunately suffered the fate of the girl with the shiniest knee brace. Turns out that imitating Kenji Muto's style isn't exactly healthy for one's knee health. Overall, she's had a very interesting ride thus far. She's being introduced into an angle into NXT TV and will likely be going deep into this tournament, possibly getting eliminated in the second round or going into the Elite Eight. There's been no question about her wrestling abilities, but the question of her durability has now been raised into question. When you have had one serious knee injury, much like Mae Young, you start to fall apart. She's 23 years old, and she's already having knee issues. Either she's going to have the best 5-year career of her life, or she's going to have a very inconsistent 5-year career before knee injuries force her into retirement. And I sincerely hope not. But like many British wrestlers, you notice the wear and tear on them because they start at a very young age. And it's unfortunate, but we'll see what happens in this tournament. And I'm trying to remain as positive as I can be, folks, because I think Knox has a lot of potential. If she removes the Tenshi Muto on fence and decides to go with something that's a little bit more healthy for her knees. But then again, this is WWE and this is the Nation of Excess. Especially Isengard, which is the real Nation of Excess. That's why they love Johnny Gargano so much. Toni Storm. Everybody's odds maker's odds-on favorite to make it to the finals of the tournament. For me, however, I'm not really so sure. 1. Tournament curses. 2. Toni Storm is a really good regional champion. If they are going to put the Mae Young Classic belt on her, it's probably because they want to draw extra eyes to Australia, because they're going to be doing a tour of Melbourne in a couple months in a giant soccer stadium. Yeah, they're doing another one of those WWE super shows, this time in Australia. Guys, it's not going to work out like the same way it's not going to work out in Saudi Arabia. There isn't that much of a disposable income over there. Toni Storm is going to go Toni time with her strong style-based offense and is likely going to eviscerate this entire field until she runs into somebody like Satomura, who is going to see this youngster as a challenge and promptly destroy her. Storm is either getting eliminated in the Elite Eight or she's going to go into the finals. I would much prefer that she has an upset loss in this situation, that she can start building a story for her. I think that there are a lot of people that you can give the shiny thing to. In this situation, with a field this deep, you can afford to give the shiny thing to somebody else. Yes, I know that there will be a lot of people complaining that Toni time isn't the Mae Young Classic winner, especially after how close she came last time. But I think having a story of her losing the first 2 tournaments only to win the third one is a much nicer story, I feel, overall. But she's probably winning this one, despite the fact that there are a lot of things that could go wrong in this situation. Toni is at the phase of her career where she's becoming extremely overhyped. And overhypedness can be just as dangerous as being underhyped. She's a really solid wrestler in WXW and a really solid wrestler in Progress. She gets 4-star matches out of everybody and is carrying some women's promotions because of her wrestling skills. But she's now suffering the Bret Hart problem of having the charisma of a doorknob. She's likable, yes, especially when she murders gummy bears, and she will have a solid match with Killer Kelly, who she's worked with before. But I have a lot of question marks and concerns about Storm in this particular instance. Does she fall for Lance Storm syndrome, or does she actually progress well in the character department? Time will tell. Vanessa Craven. A wrestler whose career was completely derailed by Canadian border crossing issues, makes her first appearance in the Mae Young Classic. This is another veteran who is going to surprise people with her surprising amount of youth and vigor and a destructive streak a mile wide. Your monster of the tournament is this particular wrestler. Well, she's basically the mini-boss monster. We all know that Meiko Satomura, Mio Yim, Kaitlyn, Ginny, and a bunch of other, and Iro Shirai, as well as Hiro Masumoto, are all the monsters in this tournament. Vanessa Craven has size, certainly, and she's certainly a better wrestler than the greatest invisible wrestler to ever exist, Nia Jax. But we'll see how Craven does in this tournament. She's been a mainstay for Smash Wrestling for decades, for almost a decade now. She's also been a mainstay for other wrestling promotions in Canada because of her visa issues. She's managed to get them resolved and is now in this tournament. Craven is gonna surprise people. And she's gonna do, I think, fairly well. Likely is either getting eliminated in the Elite 8 or the Sweet 16, or ends up being that surprise first round loss to a Performance Center person. Depending on how things go and depending on what they do with her, it's going to be a really interesting thing to see what they do with Vanessa Craven. Xia Brookside. Oh, look, another legacy push, who will likely be hated by the audience because reasons. I actually like Xia Brookside. She's the daughter of Robbie Brookside, who's one of the trainers of the Performance Center. Well, here's the thing. Zaya's gimmick right now at this point is all pretty butterflies and unicorns, but I'm fully expecting to embrace her her dad's pedigree of being a technical wrestler who rips people's spines out. I mean, look, she's basically the Candice LeRae of this tournament, a total monster disguised under the veil of cuteness, rainbows, and butterflies. But, you know, certain caterpillar species are extremely poisonous, do you remember? And some rainbows can actually lead to horrifically bad storms. We'll see how she does in this tournament. Either she's getting eliminated in the first round, like a lot of people, or she's ending up advancing into the Elite 8. Because reasons of storytelling. Xia Li, one of the most impressive first round debuts to the Performance Center in the history of the world. A person who I literally whose match with Mercedes Martinez was actually in my top 10 of the 2017 matches that I looked at last year. This is a very, very impressive wrestler from a physical athletic standpoint. She's a Chinese martial artist. She's got kung fu skills. She looks like Chun-Li from Street Fighter. Yes, I know, but that's kind of the fun charm of wrestling, you know, taking from something else. But overall, I think she's going to have a very solid tournament. Her wrestling skills and fundamentals have been improved by a year of Performance Center training. She is likely going to be one of the people who is going to surprise some people and eliminate somebody in the first round of the tournament. Hopefully. And hopefully she doesn't get decapitated in the first round by somebody else that they want to push. You really need to start pushing some of your Performance Center people. Otherwise, what are you doing with them? Are you just going to sign whichever indie wrestlers that come up on your radar or actually develop? Because you never know what these indie wrestlers have gone through in matches. And overall, I think this is going to be a very solid tournament overall. For Xia Li, I really do hope that she does well here. Especially since, well, again, I think she's going to be very, very going to be a fun to watch, especially if they let her go deep. Zatarra. Well, we needed one luchador jobber in this tournament. Zatarra, not the magician from the DC Comics, is a wrestler. Zatarra, not Zatanna. Zatarra is a wrestler who wrestles mainly in Chile and has been wrestling in Lucha Libre since 2013, from what I've been able to find out about her. Okay, we needed a luchador in this tournament for Xexis to murder. So she's probably getting eliminated in the first round. Or she's going to surprise people and actually end up making it into the second round of the tournament. Hopefully she's a better luchadora than Mango. Yes, Mango. The luchador from Impact that they signed a few years ago, who he was absolutely terrible. And finally, the Puerto Rican power, Xixis. This is a wrestler I'm very familiar with because she wrestled for CMLL. She is a person who is basically the epitome of Tony Storm. I am looking forward to her basically kicking Tony Storm around because here's the thing about Xexis. She is a strong-style luchadora who is absolutely brutal in ring. And when I say brutal, I don't mean brutal in the bad way. I mean brutal in the, if you see her diving knee drop in the corner, It's basically the most painful move I've ever seen. She is a very, very solid technical wrestler with lucha libre skills and the fact that she can actually speak English, which is kind of important given the fact that many of her opponents are American. She can also speak Japanese, which means she can work with the Joshi wrestlers. She is the perfect utility wrestler for this tournament, and if they have any common sense, they'll make her go into the Elite Eight or the Final Four. I think it's time that they start finally pushing a luchadora. She doesn't have the age or injury concerns that Princess Shuget had last time, who was basically at the end of her career. Zexys is still a relatively young luchadora. She does have her injury concerns, but all luchadoras pretty much have that. I think she'll have a very, very good tournament in this particular instance. And I want to also kind of sort of apologize for mentioning age in this situation. I know it's impolite to mention a lady's age, but we're doing a logical, statistical, analytic analysis of everybody in this tournament. That is going to be a concern going forward. Once you've hit the big 3-0, everything starts to go downhill unless you're Mito Sakamura. Satomura, who basically defies the aging gods and promptly kicks things to death. So, who exactly am I predicting to win this tournament? I went with Ginny, didn't I? But I think there are quite a lot of competitors. But the great thing about this particular edition of the tournament is that there are a lot of wrestlers in here that you could reasonably and realistically go with who could actually do very well here. I'm excited for the Mae Young Classic. Yes, kind of, but I'm going to keep my expectations realistic. A lot of it has to depend on the young guns not messing up and the veterans not falling apart due to age and injury. You have a very, very solid tournament on paper. Key word here, paper. This tournament hasn't even started yet. In fact, the tournament will actually begin on August 8th and August 9th. Depending on how things go in this particular tournament, it will be either the best thing that happens since sliced bread, or it will be a total disaster. Anyway, the finals of the tournament will be happening at the Evolution pay-per-view, which will be WWE's answer of, well, we're part of this women's revolution thing, and we're gonna promote an all-women's pay-per-view. Stephanie McMahon, as she did that whole announcement, was so awkward. It was so funny. But let's be honest in this whole situation. Stephanie, I suspect, is thinking about retiring at this point. She's been with the company for over 30 years, since she was a kid. She's obviously, at this point in time, looking at other interests. Much like Shane McMahon, I think she's looking at other interests at this point to, well, see what she can do in this situation. Overall, I think that it's going to be very interesting to see how Stephanie does in the next few years, because I think it's going to be Barrios, Wilson, and Hunter leading the helm as far as WWE is concerned. I think Stephanie's kind of stepping back a little bit because, well, she's been in this business for well over 30 plus years at this point. And everybody faces burnout at some point, and she's got 3 kids to raise alongside with Hunter. So overall, either this tournament will be a massive success for WWE, or people will laugh and people will laugh and point out the hypocrisy of some of the things that they've done in this situation. Yes, you book an all-women's tournament, and yet you decide to go to Saudi Arabia. You book an all-women's tournament with several African-American wrestlers, and yet you bring back Hulk Hogan. Yeah, WWE is a fun, strange, Satan-fueled company, isn't it? Unfortunately, nobody else is really doing any better. All of the women's promotions have at least some kind of problem with backstage confrontations, egos aplenty, and terrible management. I mean, let's look at all of the options. I know that I've always said support indie wrestling, but at the same time, I've also said the asterisk at the end. Always do your research. Always take a look at every promotion with a keen magnifying glass and take a look and see what exactly are the problems here. Is it terrible management? Is it some kind of vice? Is there some kind of issue with domestic violence, sexual assault, or any other form of issues, like not checking the registered sex offender database for your ring crew? Yeah, I'm still not over that, especially since it was a gaming convention for children. So I'm not going to be over that, folks. But yes, the Mae Young Classic 2. Is this going to be the evolution of a Faustian Bargain? Certainly. they've certainly gotten a lot more desperate and have brought a lot more veterans into this particular tournament than they did last year. Sure, 17 of the 32 competitors in this tournament are from last year, but there's enough variety here that it makes things really interesting. And also, like I said before, let's not knock the first edition of the Mae Young Classic tournament. That was a solid tournament in its own right with some decent wrestlers. The problem was is that they picked the wrong veterans, and the people that they had go through to the next rounds were either incredibly inconsistent or were matched up with the wrong opponents to highlight their strengths and hide their weaknesses. Overall, I think the second edition of the tournament is one that I have decent expectations for, but it might turn out to be a total disaster. Knowing how my predictions have gone this year with how my predictions went last year with the sumo shows, I'm probably going to go with the latter. And that's because of my positive, pessimistic, and pragmatic attitude about these things. But overall, I think that this will be a solid enough tournament. Even if half of the names are, well, people that they basically have pulled from other promotions, alien invasion style. But yeah, solid field, on paper, looks decent, and we'll see where this goes from here. But yeah, this is, like I said, this is going to be a very interesting tournament to look at on paper. And I do apologize for the minor technical issue, the remove harmful software thing. I'm actually going to look at the details on this. Let's see here. What is the hypo? Okay. Sure. Okay, okay. Okay, remove. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it looks like it was just a simple thing that had been on the thing there, and okay, so that's done, and oh wow, had a massive improvement there on the thing. I don't know if this recording is actually going to work out in this situation, but I'm no stranger to technical difficulties on this show. But this has been episode 47 of Fizzy's Wacky World of Wrestling. Hang on a minute, actually, let's talk a little bit about NXT. Yeah, so Tommaso Ciampa won the NXT Championship against Aleister Black a couple weeks back. Yeah, I'm really happy about that. The greatest babyface champion that NXT has ever had, not named Aleister Black. Yes, Tommaso Ciampa. Also, Johnny Gargano got kicked in the face, as I mentioned earlier. What a glorious, glorious time. But yeah, the Mae Young Classic. I mean, the thing is that I'm not. I know that this is a corporate PR move. I know that this is the whole women's revolution thing. But the great thing is about corporate PR, it can oftentimes be used for good, even without them realizing it. And like I've said constantly about this whole women's revolution thing, you don't want Vince's attention. You don't even want Hunter's attention to a certain extent, unless, of course, it's the whole making him look good thing. But overall, I feel that this will probably be a pretty solid tournament overall. And, well, okay. We'll see how things go in this entire tournament. Hopefully it goes good, and hopefully it doesn't fall apart due to, well, anything that happens. Rest of WWE, what about Evolution? What are my thoughts on it? It's in October. We don't really know what's going to be happening in this particular situation. I know there are a lot of people who are yelling and screaming about the women's division right now, and I'm going, patience, patience. I know that things right now look a little bit iffy, but the last thing you need to be doing is doing crazy conspiracy theories about blondes. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the whole blonde conspiracy theory thing. Look, what they're doing in this situation is they're trying to set the blonde wrestlers against everybody else. And the blonde wrestlers' fan base is against everybody else because everybody's angry, like, blondes, blondes, Vince's fault. Vince has not been running the company for 3 years. Well, I don't know who else was a blonde. Triple H. Yeah, I kind of want to take a look at in the mirror in the men's division. Blonde, yes, Triple H. Okay, so basically he has booked the female version of himself in the main event situation. Alexa Bliss has had a very Triple H-esque run. Carmella has had a very Triple H-esque run. Both of them are NXT graduates. Or his NXT kids. Same thing with the Woo, when she's not imitating Kevin Nash. I mean, look, if things work out, We have Punch as our NXT, as our WWE Women's Champion, Becky as our SmackDown Champion, and somebody else. Look, I'm not opposed to Becky Lynch winning the shiny thing, especially if somebody like Asuka or Charlotte takes the pin, or Carmella takes the pin. I think in this situation, it's a win-win for everybody involved, especially if they decide to make it a fatal four-way, because, look, if Asuka's contract truly is running out, and I'm not a big believer in rumors, as I've said them constantly on this show, then okay, you have her drop the pin. I know some people are going to be really mad about that decision, but again, she's leaving the territory, so she's going to leave the territory on her back. Overall, I feel like this is going to be a very interesting next couple of months for WWE, and I'm going to be covering a lot more of that in this show, but I've been at this since 4:25 a.m. in the morning, and my voice is starting to get a little bit hoarse. But this has been episode 47, for real this time, of Fizzy's Wacky World of Wrestling. Thank you for taking a really interesting trip down the world of the Mae Young Classic, where there's now 25% more Death by Joshi wrestler. And your immortal soul is likely going to be signed. Remember our little friend, the Faustian Bargain, my friends. You signed away your soul because you wanted more women's wrestling. And I know that it is an extremely good thing for female wrestlers to gain more opportunities in this situation. But remember, you're dealing with psychos on all sides. Not just WWE, but on the indies, and even by your fellow female wrestlers. Be very, very careful over this next few years. Build solidly. It's we, not me, in this situation. Build a solid business plan. Have a female wrestling promotion that isn't run on a shoestring budget or isn't about to fall apart due to budgetary concerns. Have it actually be about women's athletics, not have taped women's athletics to the front of your promotion and then decide that to be all sleazy about it. When it takes you over 100 shows, and I'm looking at you, Shimmer, to finally realize that you have a sexual harassment problem by your fan base, then you really need to look in the mirror sometimes. But yeah, I've got a lot of criticisms about women's wrestling, and it mostly has to do with the factor that I truly believe female wrestlers are true athletes in every sense of the word. They have to deal with catcalls, they have to deal with wolf whistles, they have to deal with harassment on every single solitary stage by everybody. Either by angry ladies who are envious of their looks, or by perverts. Or by perverts who have decided to show up to a show. It's a very, very complicated issue, and like I said, it's one of the parts of the four pillars of wrestling, but I'll get to that part, I think, on the next show, where I talk about some of the fundamental issues of the four pillars of wrestling. And I talked about this before on a past Wacky World of Wrestling episode, but some recent stuff that I've looked at has highlighted a few more issues that I would like to delve deep into. I'm also going to talk a little bit more about WWE, obviously, but it's 5:33 a.m. in the morning, and I want to get this broadcast taken care of because, well, this has been the evolution of a Faustian bargain, kids. Sign away your soul on the dotted line over the guest checklist over there. And this has been episode 47 of Fizzy Wacky World of Wrestling. Thank you so much for joining us on this particular edition of the show. It was a little bit of an abridged job in this particular instance because I just had a lineup sheet, and I know a lot about some of the wrestlers on this show. And it's great to see some of the unknowns because I love the unknown in these tournaments, and to see what exactly is going to happen. If it's a chaos tournament, then I'm going to be really happy about it. If it's a predictable tournament, then I'm going to go, why did you go in that direction? But that's for another time and for another show. But this has been William Fizzpatrick. Once again, thank you again for tuning in on this particular broadcast, and I'll see you for the next edition of Fizzy Wacky World of Wrestling. That might air sometime in the next week or so. My schedule's kind of been a little bit topsy-turvy lately, but I wanted to get this one taken care of. Overall, well, have a good day, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll see you for the next edition of the show. Prepare to stock up on MRBs and make sure that your bomb shelter is, well, fully prepared for the onslaught of destruction and agony that comes from the Mae Young Classic. Because we remember the stands last time, and every hardcore female wrestling fan, and, well, every single thing that happened last time, right? If you thought that the WWE stands were bad, watch what happens when the Stardom fandom interacts with everybody. Have a good day, ladies and gentlemen. Stay safe, and happy Mae Young Classic tournament, and happy anniversary for us here at Fizzy's Wacky World of Wrestling. Bye, folks.